KLEP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, and we're back on our extended version of Community Conversations, and we now have in the studio with us today Mr. Joe Hafner. Mr. Hafner is running for the Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2 seat. Once again, KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not endorse nor support any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This interview is provided for educational purposes only. How are you doing today, Mr. Hafner?
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me in here and taking an active role in the Jonesboro community and getting our information out there. Appreciate it.
All right, well, no problem. Well, speaking of getting information out there, let's go ahead and get started. So let the listeners know who you are and what your background is.
Okay, my name's Joe Hafner. I'm originally from Jonesboro. Graduated from Jonesboro High School in 1988. Graduated from Arkansas State University in 1992. I'm the youngest of 10 kids, 5 boys, 5 girls. We all graduated from Jonesboro High School. My background professionally is I'm a CPA. I got my accounting degree from ASU in 1992. I've got over 20 experience. That's been consisted of public accounting and corporate accounting. I worked for several large companies, including Waste Management and Douglas Quick Cutover in Walnut Ridge, as well as Coast and Castor Corporation. And then I served at Coast and Castor as group controller for the USA.
All right, Mr. Hafner, what made you decide that you wanted to run for Jonesboro City Council?
Well, part of the reason I wanted to run for City Council, like I said, is Jonesboro's my hometown. I want to see it continue to grow and prosper. And I just feel that my background in running businesses, helping do budgets, managing people will really be an asset to the council. And, you know, I think an accounting background is one area where there's a lack of on the council right now. And just my approach, my reasonable, level-headed approach will help make sure that the council, you know, does our homework on different issues that come before us, and that we know exactly what we're voting on and the impact of those decisions, you know, before we vote on them.
All right, well, Mr. Hafner, you mentioned your accounting background, so this will transition into my next question. As you know, the City Council recently passed the pay raises for the police department, and now they are considering raises for the fire department, as well as other city workers. And there has been some concern that this could put a strain on the budget in the future, to the point to where taxes maybe have to raise, layoffs may have to occur, or cuts may have to be made in other areas. So as an accountant, if you were elected to the City Council, how would you handle the situation?
Okay, first and foremost, I support all city employees having competitive and fair pay for the work they do and the length of time they've been on the job. You know, what we've had come up here recently, I think, is a result of several years of inaction and not having good policies and procedures in place to follow a payroll or a compensation plan. As an accountant, when you face something like this, or as a business manager, I mean, you're exactly right. You have to look at your current revenue, your current resources, see if there's a way to increase those. I think taxes need to be the last resort. I think, you know, because once you enact a tax, that puts more burden on the city, and, you know, a lot of citizens will already say that we pay more than we should in taxes. So as you know, the council, as department heads, as the mayor, I mean, we'll really have to look at where are we spending our money. Are there ways to cut back without impacting city services to a negative degree? You know, is our head count right for each department? Are there other areas where we can create some cost savings just through improved efficiencies? And, you know, hopefully we don't get to this point, but headcount reductions and reduction in services are always something you have to look at when there's a chance of economic downturn. I mean, in 2008, 2009, when we had the kind of the recession in the U.S., and I was working at a local business as the controller. I mean, unfortunately, we had to look at making cuts, and we cut out some expenses. We had to make headcount reductions, but it was necessary in order to do it to make it through that time. So hopefully we don't have to get to those drastic measures, but I mean, everybody's going to have to buckle down and make sure that we, like Mayor Perrin said, and any mayor that's in that office will have to do this. We have to present a balanced budget, and in order to do that with increased salaries, you're going to have to decrease other areas, because long term you can't pay it out of reserves. I mean, maybe this year we can pay it out of reserves, but long term that is not a good solution.
All right, once again, we are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2. If you have a call or a comment or a question for Mr. Hafner, you can call us at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. We're also live streaming on our Facebook. You can also post your comments and your questions as well. Mr. Hafner, I want to kind of go into now council procedure. One of the things that has come up in recent times is it seems like some people feel there's a rush in how quickly the council passes things. Instead of things going through the full 3 readings, they'll try to do them in one night, adopt an emergency clause, and pass it to try to push it through. What are your thoughts on that, and how would you approach that if you were a member of the Jonesboro City Council?
My thoughts on that are this. Jonesboro's been around a long time, and the issues that are coming before the council shouldn't be an emergency. These are things that have been present for several, for a long time. It is a recent issue. There's been plenty of discussion about it before it comes to the council. I think emergency clauses should only be adopted when it's a true emergency. When it's an emergency situation regarding flooding, a natural disaster, or something like that. Other matters such as payroll, cleaning out ditches, buying equipment, those are matters that should go through the full readings. I mean, the city council meets twice a month. So if everything goes through 3 readings, then the longest it's going to take is a month and a half to get passed with the regular process and procedure. When we start enacting emergency clauses on a regular basis, that's when the community starts questioning transparency, open communication, and why is this being done so quickly. So I think one of my big things is open communication with the citizens, transparency, and I think the emergency clause is used too much.
All right, Mr. Hafner, you mentioned open communication with the citizens. So if you are elected to the Jonesboro City Council, how would you ensure that the lines of communication are open for people who want to communicate with you? Would you hold town hall meetings? Would you appear at events? What would you do?
I would do a variety of things. Obviously, my phone number would be available, my email address. I would have meetings, periodically. Right now we have the ward meetings, or the city has the ward meetings where they have 6 ward meetings per year around the fall, the September, October timeline. I think those are great. I attended 5 of the 6 ward meetings this time. I think I would hope for more community involvement in that. Some of the meetings I went to didn't have very many citizens there. It's a great forum for citizens to voice their concerns, their compliments, and I feel that needs to be continued. But also, I would be out at events. I mean, I'm at ball games. I'm at restaurants. I'm out right now, and anybody could always come up and talk to me. I would never be off limits as a city councilman, and I would like to be able to do certain things like podcasts Facebook Live, stuff like that, where we could have a back and forth on a continuing basis.
That's actually a good idea about the Facebook Live. That should probably be something that city officials across the spectrum should do. Now, Mr. Hafner, you mentioned that you went to 5 of the 6 ward meetings, and when you went to those meetings, what were some of the issues that were brought to your attention or that you observed that people were talking about at those meetings?
Some of the main issues or the recurring topics were streets, sidewalks, flooding, retention ponds. The compensation plan came up a few times. A lot of it was just, people were happy with something. People were happy with the developments on the Caraway sidewalks. They also think that they were also happy with the plans to keep putting sidewalks in areas where there's high foot traffic and currently no sidewalks, especially around schools, which puts the citizens in risk going back and forth. They were happy with the STIP program, or the STIP money that we're getting from the state, the $98 million that we're matching with $7.8 million worth of city funds. That's going to relieve a lot of the traffic concerns on like Highland, with the railroad overpasses and other areas. Those were the main things.
All right, and you mentioned streets, sidewalks, and drainage. As you know, that flooding has been an issue in Jonesboro, has been a hot topic. So what do you propose to do if you're on the city council to improve the streets, the sidewalks, and the drainage, and even make the city even more bicycle friendly, because it's also an issue that comes up as well?
Okay, as far as the streets and sidewalks, that's the challenge that's kind of, I won't say unique to Jonesboro, but Jonesboro has 80 square miles of land. So when you have 80 square miles of land, obviously you have a lot more roads to cover. For comparison purposes, Conway and Springdale are each about 40 square miles of land. So you put those two together, it's about 87 square miles, and we're 80 square miles total. So we've got a lot of streets to cover. So one thing we would need to do is, work on increasing our budget for our streets department. Right now, I believe it's somewhere around $500,000, if I remember correctly. And there's not a whole lot you can do on 80 square miles or the roads and 80 square miles of land to keep them in good shape. We've done the city's done several things, installing it. What can we do to make the traffic flow better? A lot of that comes back to getting more money to do those projects. As far as bike lanes, I'll tell you, I'm a cyclist. I enjoy cycling for social and exercise purposes. I'm not one that'll ride my bike in place of my car. I like driving my car around too, but I do love riding my bike. And Jonesboro needs to look at, as resources are available, at getting bike lanes where we can. And what I'm talking about is, I'm not saying put bike lanes in downtown Jonesboro or other areas where there's simply not enough land to, but we can do things like putting arrows down, or sharrows, or what they're called, on the streets, maybe on streets where there's wide enough shoulders, putting up signage to say, hey, watch out for bikers, share the road. But with that 80 square miles of land, we have a lot of undeveloped land in Jonesboro. We have utility right-of-ways. I think we have areas where we can install bike lanes with minor disruption to the city streets, but we have to have the resources available to do it.
All right, once again, we're speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2. And if you have a question, once again, the phone number is 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. You can also post your comments on Facebook. We got a Facebook shout out to Dimitri Blanchett. All right, Mr. Hafner, you were talking about bikes, so I'm going to transition into a topic that one of our listeners, Mrs. Norma Farrell, who I know is listening but probably can't call in because she's babysitting, is about our jet system. Mrs. Farrell and other citizens such as herself, they love the jet system, but they wish that it was available on weekends because some of them may be elderly or can't afford a vehicle, and they wanted they want to shop or take care of their business, and they can't on the weekends because the bus is not running. Now I know it's mainly federally funded, and there's some restrictions on things like that. But if you're on the council, would you try to do something to where the jet service could be extended to weekends to help those citizens that would need it?
Definitely. I mean, the jet system provides a great service, for the citizens of Jonesboro and visitors of Jonesboro that needs it. I'm all for expanding the services as long as the money's available, that, we're not out of requirement with the federal grant, etc. But yeah, I think the JETS program is great. I'm glad that, we had people like Steve Uritt and others that believed in it and worked to make it successful. And, they provide great benefit not only to, people wanting to get around and shop and get to work, get to school, but also on the weekends, when there's an ASU home game, they provide services of, making it easier for people to get to games, and they get dropped off at the front, at basically the front door. So yes, I would support the Jets operating on the weekends as long as it was, financially and grant approved.
All right, well, sir, and once again, we are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner. He is a candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2. We have another Facebook shout out to Nathan Coleman, and Nathan Coleman will join us on Community Conversations for our Mayor's Week. In fact, he will be on the show on October 18th. And of course, we'll have all of the candidates for mayor October 17th through the 24th. So make sure that you stay tuned to Community Conversations so that you can hear from each one of the candidates running for mayor. All right, Mr. Hafner, we're going to bring it back somewhat to the streets. You mentioned earlier about the square mileage. We have 80 square miles. Well, another topic that has been brought up is annexation. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we need to continue annexing land, or do you think that we have enough and need to work with what we have?
I think right now we have enough that we need to just stay where we are. And the reason I say that is, about 63% or so of our budget for our general fund is from sales and use tax. People that are close enough that we're thinking about annexing land, those people are already, buying their goods, and we're already collecting their sales and use tax money. So when we annex land in, it doesn't really impact us on the top line, on our revenue. But what it does do, excuse me, is it does increase our costs, providing utilities, providing public safety through our police and firemen, and our streets department. So it does impact every other department budget as far as expenses. So I think in the future, and we actually just had quite a few acres of land that was annexed a few years ago that chose to be de-annexed because of a utility situation where City Water and Light couldn't provide the utilities at a cost beneficial price, but Craighead Electric was right there. So in the future, anytime we annex land in, it has to be something that's going to have a true benefit for the city, rather than just increasing our square mileage or our population. Because here's an interesting point. I mentioned about us being about the same size as Conway and Springdale together, but St. Louis, Missouri is a big city. St. Louis, Missouri is 60 square miles, and we're 80.
So we actually have more square miles than St. Louis.
Yes. So I mean, we're big enough land-wise. We just need to take care of what we have now and maximize it for our citizens.
All right. Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Ward 5, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. All right. Mr. Hafner, I want to ask you, this is a question that we ask all of the candidates on the way that the candidates are elected for wards themselves. Are you in favor of the current system in which the entire city elects all of the candidates, or are you more in favor of a ward-based system where only the candidates vote for that particular ward, or a hybrid system where one position is at large and the other is determined by the members of that ward?
I think even though it presents some challenges when you're campaigning, because you have to basically run a mini mayor's race, I think I'm in favor of the citywide elections, as long as we're representing different parts of the city, because I think that makes you want to make the best decisions for Jonesboro, and not necessarily for your district. So, I think the hybrid system is interesting, and I've never thought about that one.
Well, it's kind of like how Congress works. If you think about it, you have the House of Representatives, which is voted by district, and then the Senate, which is determined by the whole state.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting viewpoint. But I think right now that I'm in favor of how it is, even though it does present challenges when you're running.
All right. We're getting ready to go to break. We are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner. He is a candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2. Don't forget, at 11 o'clock today, you can join my co-host, Mrs. Quabila Harden. She's not in the studio. She's getting nice and dolled up, getting nice and pretty, because she is going to be on KAIT at 11 o'clock a.m. on Midday with Diana Davis. So be sure to check my girl Quabila out as she talks about all of the news with KLEK. We will be back after the break with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2. You listen to Community Conversations, and this is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations.
Parents, is time with your kids a priority? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. During busy times, does your job or your family become the main focus? University of Georgia head football coach Mark Richt said that no matter what, he drove his kids to school, even during football season. Spending that time with them was a priority. So, what can you do to make sure you're spending enough time with your kids during a busy season? Start by setting appointments on your calendar to spend one-on-one time each week with each of your children, doing what they want to do. If someone else asks you for a meeting during that time, just tell them you can't. To listen to my podcast,
by the organization service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
New St. John Missionary Baptist Church, 308 North Main Street in Jonesboro, is under the direction of Reverend Ted T. Taylor Sr. Worship services are Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. Sunday school is on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Prayer service is Wednesday nights at 6:30, and Bible class is on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. New St. John also has the Men of Standards Ministries, Outreach Ministry, Choir, Youth Ministry, Dance Ministry, and Missionary Society. www.newstjohn.org. New St. John Missionary Baptist Church on Facebook, 870-932-6915.
Lame excuses and other forms of voter apathy have no place in American democracy. Show that you care, do your duty, and go vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
From the KLEK Community Calendar, A-State Care presents After School Tutoring in the Community. Available Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 o'clock p.m. until 5 o'clock p.m. through December 6, 2016. Subjects that will be taught will be language arts, writing, reading comprehension, mathematics, science, geography, social studies, and history. The address is 911 Magnolia Road in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK. Kato Wonder is solo in the studio today. I don't have my co-host with me, Mrs. Quabila Harden. She is getting ready for her interview on KAIT later on today at 11 o'clock a.m., so be sure to check that out. But we do have Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2, in the studio. And if you have a question for Mr. Hafner, phone number once again is 870-277-1080. You can also leave your comments and your questions on our Facebook live stream. So I'm going to go ahead and get back into our interview. Jonesboro is a growing city. The population is projected to hit 100,000 people within the next few years. So, Mr. Hafner, what do you feel the city needs to do to get prepared for that kind of growth?
I think it all goes back to proper planning. We have to make sure that our infrastructure, our streets, our community centers, our parks and rec, that we're our staffing, our head count, that we're set up to handle, that sort of population. It's going to impact our schools. It's going to impact every facet of our community, and we just really have to. It goes back to planning. I mean, we have to make sure that we have the resources available, that we can beef up our infrastructure to handle those numbers. Because right now we're about 72,000 or so, and we have challenges with that number. So we have to make sure we properly plan.
And how do you feel traffic will fit into that? Because I can definitely say from my experiences, I first got here in 1996, and that's been 20 years ago, and the traffic has definitely gotten a lot worse since I first got here as an ASU student back then.
Yeah, the traffic can be bad. When you get on Red Wolf Boulevard, Nettleton, that area, it can get pretty congested.
Especially West Nettleton, once you pass by the kindergarten and Andy Camp. I mean, the worst time, because I actually live on West Nettleton, and it's 3 miles from West Nettleton to the studio, and the absolute worst time to travel down West Nettleton is around by 7 in the morning, because you got to pass 2 schools and 2 schools worth of traffic on a 2-lane road and about pass through 4 lights.
Right, and actually that's the area of town that I grew up in. I grew up right across from what used to be the YMCA. So I remember when Nettleton was even narrower through there. So I couldn't imagine, handling today's traffic with that, with the way the roads were back then. Hopefully a lot of the road projects that we're doing with the STIP money will help congestion. It all goes back to, let's look at the northern bypass, eastern bypass, and stuff like that is what I referred to earlier when I was planning, because the more traffic that we can take off the roads that are just going around Jonesboro and not necessarily conducting business or going to activities in Jonesboro, that will help relieve the congestion. I mean, my dad was from Chicago. We used to go up there all the time for summer vacation. I still have a brother that lives there. Things could be a lot worse. They could be a lot worse. I mean, we don't have the gridlock that they do in Chicago, but I also know that things could be better. It seems like they're constantly working on the synchronization of the traffic lights. I still scratch my head sometimes about the traffic but we have to provide more multi-lane ways to get around Jonesboro.
Yep, we definitely do have to do something about the traffic. And of course, coming with growth, we have lots of new things that are coming to Jonesboro, and a couple of those new things coming to Jonesboro are the convention centers. One is currently under construction, the one that's out by 555, the one on the campus of Arkansas State University. I believe they will soon begin construction. There, of course, was some controversy about the convention centers with the AMP Commission deciding to give funding support to the I believe it's the Keller Project, the one that's on 555, as opposed to the ASU one. So what are your thoughts on that, and do you think that Jonesboro can support 2 convention centers?
I'm very happy that Jonesboro is getting a convention center, in this case 2 convention centers. It's been a long time coming. As a parent of someone, of a daughter who travels and plays, club volleyball, it's neat going to other cities and going to their convention centers and participating in tournaments and stuff like that. And Jonesboro needs to have a way to host, tournaments, because they can bring a lot of money into the city. Do I think Jonesboro can support 2 convention centers? It's going to be hard. I think each of them has advantages. The ASU one is on campus. I mean, obviously there's a lot of concerts, athletic events, and Jonesboro's going to have ASU's going to have their hospitality hotel management program that's going to kind of piggyback off of that. But the centers, the costs involved in running them, it's going to be hard to get enough events in here to support them. Having said that, I think both groups are going to work really hard to be successful. I wish them the best, and it would be awesome to make both of them work.
All right, and we'll transition into another thing, which is the water parks and the dog parks. So there's been, some discussion about that. What are your thoughts on those? Do you feel that they are needed? Do you feel that the city should be taking an active role in getting them here, or do you feel that the city should more like encourage the private developer to come build them and maybe just give them a tax break or something like that? How do you feel the city should best address attractions for people to have in Jonesboro, and maybe even what are some other attractions that you would like to see here?
Okay, I'm a proponent of quality of life projects, which I think aquatic centers, dog parks, bike lanes, fall under. The thing with the aquatic center is the city does need to take a role in it. With the size of swim teams, with the impact that they can have as far as hotel usage, restaurants, a lot of people come to swim meets. I don't know if you've ever been to one at the Jonesboro pool. I drove through there, and you couldn't park anywhere. There were the fields behind the pool were all packed with people set up with their tents. The thing is with any of these quality of life projects is Jonesboro, with our current resources, we don't have the money to fund them. So I think we need, as a council, to look, have planning going on for aquatic centers, but we have to, leave no stone unturned to help find the funding for them. If that's a public-private partnership, if that's a private entity coming in here and doing it, that may be our best option. But we need to look at those. But I really believe in quality of life projects, aquatic centers, dog parks, because I think it provides an attraction for not only visitors to come here and spend money in Jonesboro, but it also provides an incentive for our current citizens to get out, be active. It is an attraction for businesses looking to relocate to Jonesboro. We have to have things for our citizens to do, and these quality of life projects are important in that. So that's where I stand on that.
Okay, and we'll transition that into parks and recreation. What is your vision for parks and recreation?
Okay, as I mentioned a little bit ago, I grew up across the street from the YMCA. I worked down there from the time I was 14 till I was about 20. I basically grew up at the YMCA. It wasn't per se a community center, but it was a place where I could go meet people, be active, and it's a place that taught me a lot. It kept me out of trouble. It gave me a positive place to go. I wasn't out running the streets. So from a Parks and Rec viewpoint, I think Jonesboro has improved in those areas. With Allen Park, with Parker Park, Earl Bell improvements. We've made some strides, but a city our size, a city that continues to grow, I think we need to make more of an investment in community centers. We talked about the aquatic center, but a city our size should probably have at least 3 to 4 minimum city pools. Right now we have one that's in Southwest Jonesboro that's hard for people to get to, but we need to have these opportunities available in different sections of the city that are more easily accessible. Because here's the thing, like I said earlier, if we have park community centers in different parts of the county or the city, we have these pools and they're supervised. people are going to go there, not be, on the streets, you're not hopefully getting in trouble, and making relationships that they can last a lifetime.
It's always good to bring people together. Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Ward 5, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. Mr. Hafner, the north side of Jonesboro, as you know, it's kind of behind compared to the other parts of town, and that's one of the reasons why the North Jonesboro Neighborhood Initiative was founded, to help to get things on the north side of town for those residents. So if you are on the Jonesboro City Council, what would you do to help revitalize the north side of town?
Okay, if I'm on the council, and this is on my website, my Facebook page, and some of my literature, I would be a representative for the whole city. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, Jonesboro has citywide voting. Everybody across the city votes for or against you, and or not really against you, but for somebody else. And so the way I look at it is, we're representing the whole city. We're not just representing our ward. And as far as the north part of Jonesboro, there are several things that can be placed out there. It's a great area. I know the community block grant and Parker Park help that when money, the northern part of Jonesboro needs to be given consideration as much as any other part. It needs to be fair representation, and and looked at through open eyes.
All right, Mr. Hafner, we're going to kind of transition that into the property code. Of course, you know the story about the property code. The property code was proposed. It was barely passed in the city council, with Mayor Perrin casting the tie-breaking vote to pass the property code. There was a recall election in which the property code was repealed, but we still have dilapidated houses around town. We still have renters who are complaining that their landlords don't fix their property. So the problem didn't go away just because the code was repealed. So if you are on the council and this comes before the council again, what would you propose is the best way to resolve this issue?
Okay. What the property maintenance code that was proposed was really the International Property Maintenance Code. I think the intent was noble. I think, for the several items that you mentioned, but I think for Jonesboro right now, it was probably too much too soon. The fact that it included interiors, on the face of it, that makes sense. I mean, why is the exterior of the house more important than keeping the interior in good shape? But what it did, I think unintentionally, was it targeted the rental house owners, because people who own their house, they won't call the city, most of the time and say, hey, the inside of my house is a mess. Y'all need to come give me a ticket.
Yeah.
But the tenant will and probably should, bring that to light if they're living in unsafe, unsanitary conditions. I think what we need to do as a council is, work with, Lieutenant Todd Nelson, with the Quality of Life Department, look at our current code, see where the gaps are, see what, regulations are on the books that aren't being used, get those off, clean them up, and then work on filling the gaps in that will take care of some of the dilapidated, houses, structures. Because the way I understand it right now is there's really no tool in place between, issuing tickets for, the cars and the unmowed, grass and stuff like that through condemnation. So we have to find a way to fill in the gaps in our current code so that, we can have an instrument in place to take care of the problem before they get so dilapidated that they have to be condemned.
And do you feel that there should be a mechanism in place to help those who may not can afford to fix up their homes, to fix them up? Because I think that was a concern too that you may have elderly people
Right.
or poor people who have houses that have fallen into disrepair, not because they don't care, but it's a choice
Well,
between, do I fix my house or do I buy something, buy
Exactly.
food?
Yeah. I mean, that was a concern that was shared with me over the the proposed code, and I understand. I mean, if my parents were alive today, one would be 90 and the other would be about 88. So, I definitely feel for cases like that. And yes, I believe that through grants, through private donations, that some sort of fund should be established to help with repairs where the need was shown.
All right, once again, we're speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Ward 5, Position 2. Mr. Hafner, are there any issues that are important to you, any things that you want to do on the council that we may not have touched on so far? I want to make sure that give you the opportunity to get out anything that you want to say to the listeners.
I think we've covered, most of the important topics. The one thing I want to say is I believe in keeping things simple, keeping things open, keeping things transparent, and making the best use of our resources. As I said earlier, I firmly believe in investing in quality of life items, where funding is allowed, we'll allow it, because I know that's important in attracting individuals, people who want to make Jonesboro their home with their families, as well as new businesses and industries that can bring in good revenue to Jonesboro. I just I know that my background in running businesses will help that.
So you could use that, you feel that you could possibly use that background to attract new industries to Jonesboro?
Well, I think I can use my background to make sure to help the city focus on making the good decisions that will end up attracting industries and people to Jonesboro.
All right, once again, we are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Ward 5, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. Now, another thing that is coming with the growing city is a growth in crime. Now, we are blessed and fortunate that we don't have extreme high crime like in similar cities, but with growth, unfortunately, comes unintended consequences, and that is an unintended consequence. So what is your position on making sure that the city of Jonesboro stays safe?
I mean, the safety of our citizens, the safety of our employees has to be, really the most important thing that we focus on. I know the police department has some challenges with the number of officers that left, in recent years over, pay or, other issues. And so hopefully with the pay raise that got approved and the new pay plan that got approved for the police officers, hopefully that will provide some stability and allow certain areas such as the Prowl unit or to be reestablished. When I attended the Ward 6 meeting, that was one of the concerns that they really voiced was, the safety in their area and the increased crime rate. And one of the things that was mentioned was, Jonesboro is increasing patrols, and it's increasing, uniformed police officers patrols, but it's also increasing undercover patrols. So even though we may not necessarily see more police cars in a certain area, they are trying to provide more coverage or more patrols of those areas so they can knock down the crime. I think we really have to, I think our police department, I think they do a good job of this, but they really have to be aware of, is there a common thread in certain areas? I mean, did somebody just move in and the crime rate went up? And really focus on preventive measures before something, major happens and somebody really gets hurt.
Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner, candidate for Ward 5, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. We'll be back with more of Community Conversations. This is Kate, Lee K, 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. One of the least discussed yet most impactful aspects of partner and domestic abuse is financial violence, a subject we've addressed many times here on Money Matters. In financial abuse, perpetrators control their victim by using tactics like withholding access to money, destroying their credit, hurting their job performance, or disrupting their ability to gain and maintain employment. While both men and women of all backgrounds and economic circumstances can be victims or perpetrators of financial violence, poor women and women of color tend to be particularly vulnerable. According to the American Bar Association, approximately half of domestic violence survivors lose their jobs as a result of violence. To help with what they want to take to protect themselves, go to the website for the National Network to End Domestic Violence at nndev.org and search for the article Financial Tips for Victims and Survivors. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org. KLEK 102.5 FM and Massey Productions presents the inspirational gospel stage play, What Don't Kill Me Makes Me Stronger. A story of three sisters challenged to cope with cancer, drugs, and rape that will inspire you, renew, and reaffirm your faith. 2 shows, 6 and 8:30 p.m., Friday, October the 14th, during A-State Homecoming Weekend at the Epic Center, 1899 County Road 333, Hasbrook Road in Jonesboro. Tickets are $10 in advance, $20 at the door, and can be purchased at www.klekfm.org or by calling 870-277-1080. Bring the entire family Friday, October the 14th during A-State Homecoming Weekend to the Epic Center to see What Don't Kill Me Makes Me Stronger, the inspirational gospel stage play. 2 shows, 6 and 8:30 p.m. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
House of Details, located at 4903 East Nettleton Avenue, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, waxing, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more, with a motto of anything mean, we can clean. Details at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and klekfm.org.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers of Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Race Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
The City of Jonesboro Civil Service Commission will be testing for the position of entry-level firefighter. Applications are available at the Human Resources Department located at City Hall, 300 South Church Street, Suite 100 in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The qualifications are candidates must be a United States citizen, possess a high school diploma or GED, be a minimum of 21 years of age, a maximum age of 34 years of age as required by Arkansas law, no felony convictions. Applicants are also required to possess a valid driver's license, pass a written exam, a physical agility test, a drug screen, medical exam, and a comprehensive background check, including a polygraph test. The City of Jonesboro is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information is available at 870-933-4640. Applications will be available through October 14th, 2016.
The key to our representative form of American democracy is the right to vote. When you cast a ballot on Election Day, you make America stronger. Now is the time to register. Election Day will soon be here. Do your part and vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations with our guest, Mr. Joe Hafner, who is a candidate for the Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 2. All right, Mr. Hafner, I want to ask you, what is your biggest concern for the city of Jonesboro going forward?
You know, my biggest concern for the city of Jonesboro moving forward is simply, managing our growth, making sure that our resources are used to keep up with that growth, provide services for our city, our citizens, and, just keep Jonesboro safe and growing and vibrant. I want to see us, grow smartly, make investments in our infrastructure, where we need to, make good informed decisions, and just keep being, a city that we can all be proud of.
All right, and Mr. Hafner, let's talk a little bit about some of the tales from the campaign. I know you've been probably campaigning for a while now, so just tell listeners, maybe lighten up the mood a little bit, maybe a funny story or something that has happened since the campaign.
This is the first time that I've ever run for political office, so getting out, meeting people, knocking on doors, it's been real informative. I can't really come up with just a funny story, but people were definitely not afraid to ask you what you think about different things. Are you Democrat, Republican? Obviously the city of Jonesboro, the council races are nonpartisan. We don't have to declare what we are. But there's some people that you think wouldn't care anything about politics, and there's some of the most informed people out there. So, you definitely need to do your homework, be aware of the city's finances. Be aware of what's going on, because if you misspeak or you say something that but you make sure. I've had some debates with people and talking to them, and finding out, hey, a lot of the same people I do, but it was just people I never knew before.
And what about the young people? Sometimes the youth may not be as engaged as the older people in the political process, but have you observed any young people, teenage, obviously you gotta be 18 to vote, but just young people in general that have expressed an interest in what's going on?
Yeah, certainly that's been the case. I have a daughter who's 15. She's a sophomore at Jonesboro High School, and my son Braden's a 8th at MacArthur. So just from their friends, they my whole thing's been Joe for Jonesboro, and
did you come up with that?
I did. I did, along with I had people I talked to. Jeff Chastain has been a big help in my campaign, and it was a slogan that we came up with together. But just seeing my daughter's friends, really ask questions and take an active interest in my campaign has been refreshing.
All right. So once again, I want to thank you for stopping by the studio. We've been speaking with Mr. Joe Hafner. He's a candidate for Ward 5, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. Mr. Hafner, just let the listeners know where they can get more information about you, website, Facebook, social media, phone number, email, any information that you want to put out there about the listeners, and any final comments or shout outs that you want to give.
Okay. One thing I want to mention real quick is, my family. Obviously I couldn't do this without their support. I've been married to my wife Margot for almost 17 years. Next week, as I just mentioned.
Congratulations on that.
I have my daughter Cameron goes to Jonesboro High School. Son Braden goes to MacArthur. I'm really involved in Jonesboro. It's my hometown. I've served as YMCA board president. I'm currently on the landfill board as vice chairman. Participated in Dare Bike fundraisers. I volunteer at MacArthur on their PTA. I'm the vice president of the JHS Athletic Booster. As far as getting in contact with me, I have a website. It's www.joeforjonesboro.com, a Facebook page, Joe for Jonesboro, and you can email me at joeforjonesboro@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from all of you.
All right, once again, Mr. Hafner, we want to thank you for stopping by the studio today. KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not endorse nor support any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This interview was provided for informational purposes only, but we do encourage you to watch the video. It is live on Facebook, along with interviews with all of the candidates for all of the offices for city council, mayor, and several other offices as well. So be sure to learn more about each candidate and be an informed voter when you step into the voter booth. And yes, sir.
Hey, I just want one more time say thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it, and look forward to hearing more of your interviews. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. And you can definitely watch them live on our Facebook page. You can watch them on our YouTube. Just look up KLEKFM. Once again, that is KLEKFM. And you can find those videos. You can also download our app. It is available for Android phones and iPhones. Just search KLEK, and you can take KLEK with us anywhere on the go. A couple quick announcements. Once again, my co-host, Mrs. Kubila Hart, she will be on midday with Diana Davis at 11 o'clock on KAIT. So you all be sure to check her out. Also, the memorial service for Mr. Lyle Lattimore, who was one of our original board of directors of the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It will be from 11 o'clock a.m. until 1 o'clock p.m. at the Woodard Funeral Home at 216 East Street. The repast will be at the 501 on Phillips Drive from 1 o'clock p.m. until 3 o'clock p.m. So please stop by and let the family know what Mr. Lattimore meant to you, because he definitely meant a lot to us here at KLEK. And then don't forget, tomorrow, the gospel stage play, What Don't Kill Me Makes Me Stronger, is going down at the Epic Center. Three sisters are challenged to cope with cancer, drugs, and rape. They soon learn that what don't kill me makes me stronger. We still got tickets, so go ahead and get those tickets now. You can call us at the radio station. They're only $10. It will be $20 at the door, so you don't want to miss it. Also, our A-State grown folks after party. We're going to have an after party after the home game this Saturday at Legends 1025. First 30 ladies get in free. It is the party for grown folks. Security will be enforced by Jonesboro Police Department. All right, you guys have a great and blessed day, and I will see you later. This is KLEK on the 2.5 FM.